beautiful? Happy New Year! Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Lisa May, and this is Thinking Beauty, where we dive into all things politics, pop culture, and personal development. So girl, the new year is upon us, and I want to take a little bit of time to share with you this book that I recently read called Finish What You Start: The Art of Following Through, Taking Action, Executing, and Self-Discipline by Peter Hollins. I know many of us are coming into the new year with big goals we want to accomplish. And if we're honest, sometimes when we look back over our past New Year's goals, we see that we tend to not finish what we start. Thankfully, Peter Hollins does a fantastic job of laying out how you can't just count on your passion to lead you to follow through. You have to do a number of things, like create a manifesto for yourself, develop a follow-through mindset, avoid pitfalls, and implement a daily system for success. These are all things that he expounds upon in the different chapters. So in this video, I'm going to go through some of the chapters and highlight some of the things as quickly and succinctly as I can. And let me just apologize in advance if this is a long video. Like I said, I'm going to try to go through as quickly and succinctly as I can. So if you need a little strategy this year, some tips and tricks on how to actually achieve those New Year's resolutions, then keep watching. Okay, so chapter 1 is called Stop Thinking, Just Execute. I mean, the title alone, okay? The book opens up with an example of a woman who wants to turn her passion into a business. Yet somehow she always finds herself doing things other than what she initially planned. And when I tell you, I could instantly relate to this. In addition to fear and judgment itself, the woman thinks that people might think that she's too ambitious for her level of talent. And honey, this really resonated. I hate that it did, but it really did. So anyway, Peter Hollins gives a very detailed explanation of how following through is a composite of focus, self-discipline, action, and persistence. He uses the analogy of a super robot that comes together to create what we call follow through. And he describes focus as the head, self-discipline as the spine, and action as the hands and feet, and persistence as the heart. Now, he says that we don't follow through for two main reasons: inhibiting tactics and psychological roadblocks that hinder us. Inhibiting tactics are basically procrastination, indulging in distractions, and poor time management. Going back to the example of the woman, she had a lot of inhibiting tactics, and she would have been better off if she structured her free time better, which actually leads me into a challenge that I want to give you if you're willing to accept it. And that's basically challenge yourself to find ways to structure your time better. I know this is definitely something that I need to do, something that I'm definitely going to be focused on this year in 2024. Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a few tips and tricks to help you do the same. And you definitely will if you get and read the book. The first call to action for me was to prioritize execution, especially over endless planning, which he says is a way that we procrastinate. He calls it productive procrastination, and it's dangerous because we feel like we're making progress and getting somewhere, but we're really just moving in place. Honey, he got me together with that, okay? But he says a big problem is that when it comes to follow through, in terms of that super robot made up of focus, discipline, action, and perseverance, is we think we can just call on these parts to come together when we need them to. But we get to our task and then find out it's not as easy as we thought it would be. Meaning you think you can be focused when you need to, or you can be disciplined when you need to, only to find out you can't just be disciplined on command or focused on command. It's something that you really have to practice and something that becomes a habit. He says that one of the ways we handicap ourselves from following through is by setting bad goals, which are goals that are too abstract. And because the directions are skewed and confusing, we lose patience and abandon the goal. And I am so guilty of this, so guilty. As far as time management, people always think that we lack time. But he says that what we really lack is the ability to use our time productively. He says time management is the practice of using time in a way that maximizes productivity and efficiency. In other words, a practice that allows you to get the most out of what you're doing. In order to do this, you need good insight and good judgment to recognize which tasks are best done when, what will give you the most yield toward completing your overall goal or objective. And this is really where you want to employ focus, your head. You have to know what you're doing. done. You have to think through what you need to do and how you need to get it done. And you have to organize your resources accordingly. This is so important because going back to what he said earlier about, thinking that things are going to be easy, and the worst thing is arriving at the moment of doing something that you plan to do and realizing you don't have what you need to do it. My mentor in my head, Steve Stout, he calls this being able to look around the corner to land on an idea and bring it into fruition. You have to have discipline of focus and be forward thinking. You have to think ahead and plan and gather and allocate your resources accordingly. Now, the author, Peter Hollins, says that because we fail to prioritize this way, we end up doing non-essential tasks that lead to unsuccessful endeavors. Girl, this was definitely a slap in the face, okay? But, with good time management, he says that a schedule is well thought out, it's cleverly organized, and it's promptly followed. A major key to this, often overlooked by the young, the naive, and the anxious, is to set realistic goals. We'll touch on this later in the video, but you have to set realistic goals and then follow through on them. Now, let me just say, I love and appreciate this book because it walks you through how to do all of this in a straightforward, non-fluff way. And so in chapter 2, he talks about staying hungry. I like how in this chapter, he lays out how, again, you can't just count on your passion for something to lead you to follow through. You have to do a number of things. You have to create a manifesto for yourself. You have to develop a follow-through mindset. You have to de-stress regularly and often. You have to eliminate distractions and procrastination. Be aware of attention residue and implement single tasking. Avoid pitfalls and implement a daily system for success. Again, all of which are chapters in the book or like key concepts in the book. Chapter 3 is about creating that manifesto, which are rules you create that hold you accountable so that you're not winging it every day, but instead your actions are guided. The rules that make up the manifesto are simply clear statements about what you must do and what you cannot do. It's definitely worth taking some time to do this and to reflect on what your personal code of conduct is and what it should be. And the tip that he gives in this chapter, as it relates to planning and taking action, is to focus on 3 things a day maximum. He says that being overwhelmed or disorganized can kill your ability to plan smartly and get things done. So ideally, you should plan the night before. And when you're planning, you should pick 3 tasks, then determine what steps you'll take in actual action to complete those 3 tasks, starting with the most important. These 3 things should then be your action items for the upcoming day. And then the next night, you repeat the process. This is where I tend to often miss the mark and, the area that I really need to challenge myself in and tighten up in, because I will do things. I'll have like a really successful day. I'll plan out what I'm going to do. I'll get it done. But then I tend to get busy, with just life. And then I don't repeat the process. And then, I feel like I'm starting all over again, basically. The 4th chapter talks about developing a follow-through mindset. As cliche as it may sound, you simply have to believe in your abilities and trust in your opportunities. The good way to do this is by assigning value and remembering how each thing you do ties into your main goal. This helps you to feel that you're doing well just by working, which in turn keeps you in motion. And at the same time as you're executing and following through and getting those things done, it's also important to de-stress. He says that your working spirit is more delicate than you might think. So you have to protect it by de-stressing. So, each day spend at least 30 minutes doing a relaxing activity, whether it's reading, meditating, or listening to music. You really want to unwind and turn your brain off. He says, don't underestimate the impact of stress on your ability to follow through. And this is so true. Now, another aspect of staying in motion while also de-stressing that tends to get overlooked often is your health. Maintaining a proper diet, getting enough sleep, and exercising. This is all important when it comes to de-stressing. He says that making decisions requires energy. So you really want to keep your energy high and right and be be as healthy as possible. Because if you fail to take care of your health, your mental health and your physical health, your discipline and your willpower will quickly deteriorate. So make sure you're de-stressing and, taking care of your mind and your body. Okay, so I'm going to skip to chapter 6, which is eliminate distractions. He says that if we're constantly distracted, we succumb to temptations without even giving ourselves a chance to exercise our willpower. So to avoid this, he suggests keeping a clean and a clear workspace, as a clean desk and a clean environment creates a clear mind. And a clear mind is much more able to remain disciplined. So you definitely want to take time to create an environment for yourself that is clear of distractions and, all other kind of temptations. If you reduce distractions from your environment and clear your mind, you'll in turn increase your focus, your efficiency, and your productivity, which is the name of the game, is it not? Now, in this chapter, he introduces a new concept, to me at least. I've never heard of it. And it's this concept called attention residue, which is basically when you switch from one task to another, your attention doesn't immediately follow. Like there's a residue of your attention that remains stuck on that original task that you were doing. It's hard to concentrate if you keep switching back and forth between different things. You're stuck trying to make sense of everything and organize it so you can understand it, which causes you to waste time trying to catch up to where you were instead of just pushing forward. Therefore, he suggests single tasking, which is where you set everything aside and work on one task with a singular focus. You purposefully and intentionally tune out everything else and just work on your task. He also encourages batching, where you do a single task multiple times. So for example, send an email or check an email. You'll set a time in the day or set a day of the week where you just go through and send all of the emails that you need to send, or check all of your emails, but don't do it, here and there. This allows you to save your mental energy for the tasks themselves and not waste energy on the process of switching back and forth between, the different things. He says that effective batching skyrockets your productivity no matter the context. Yes, that is definitely what I am here for. Going back to attention residue, you really don't want a bunch of different things, tugging on and clouding up your mind, because that kind of stress and anxiety limits and kills your productivity. Okay, so chapter 7 is all about deadly pitfalls. Now, this chapter really resonated with me. I see that I have been, like getting tripped up and falling into those pitfalls, especially the first one, which is false hope syndrome. This is when you think that you can do everything on your to-do list and reach your goals in a short amount of time. Then you're disappointed when you can't deliver. And this depresses your working spirit and causes you to shrink back and be more fearful and cause you to give up hope. Girl, when I tell you that has been my life, that has been my life, especially, this last year, when I moved to Philly, I thought that I could just move to Philly and hop to it and get to work. But I really had to take that time to decompress and, just get clear on a lot of things. But this happens when you overestimate the changes that you can make and you set unrealistic expectations. I think it's important to note that he says even if you have extremely strong self-discipline and a desire to change, you will still fail if your expectations are too high. So you really want to figure out what you can actually hope for and do and plan for that. And adjust your schedule to fit your lifestyle better. If you're more of a night person and you're more productive at night, plan to do the things that you need to do at night. If you are a morning person and you tend to get tired early in the day, plan to do what you need to do earlier in the day. If you have a demanding 9 to 5 like I do, and you can't work on things throughout the week like you would like to, plan to work on things during the weekend, however you need to do it. With that said, if you're someone just starting or picking back up with an endeavor, I would say only work on a few goals at a time and make time for those goals when you can and when you can realistically execute on them. That is so important, because going back to false hope, it's really about controlling your expectations, because when you have realistic hopes, you can actually achieve them. This leads to confidence, competence, and skill. And who doesn't want that? Another pitfall you want to beware of is overthinking. And this one is tricky, he says, because it mimics progress. You find yourself considering too many options and doing too much research, and this limits your ability to make an executive decision. So you end up freezing your ability to make decisions and find yourself in a place of stagnation. Therefore, you really want to place an emphasis on action. Going back to what I said at the start of the video, you want to prioritize execution, which means focus on taking action. Prioritize taking action. I also think it's important to note that he says overthinking often happens when we don't have clarity on what matters. So really take time to get clear and spend some time reflecting on what you really want, what you want to get out of your goals this year, and writing out your code of conduct and manifesto, which are those clear statements about what you will and what you will not do. I can tell you that this is definitely my top priority going into the new year, really getting clear on that manifesto and those statements about what I will and what I will not do. And after that, the big thing is to find time and things that work best for you and do those things and do it when you said that you're going to do it. Okay, so moving on to the last chapter, which is daily systems for success. So important, girl. Basically, you want to organize and streamline your work to make it easier, because once you hit your max, he says your willpower and self-discipline cannot push you to move forward because they're fickle and crumble when you become overwhelmed. So you want to have a system, which is a set of actions that you consistently perform every day in order to streamline your work and help you reach your goals. Unlike your self-discipline and willpower, a system organizes you and helps you perform your duties without having to push yourself. He says willpower and self-discipline only offers you strength to force yourself to do things. They don't give you that set way of doing things. So the goal of a system is to become so routine that you don't even have to think about what you need to do. You just do it. And the key to developing a system is to work on progress and consistency in your life, opposed to working on goals. But the cool thing about a system is it enables you to reach a better place, even if you don't reach your exact goal. And from that better place, it's even easier to move forward and accomplish your ultimate goal later on. So yeah, that's a full and thorough breakdown of the book. In closing, I'll just leave you with a few key points to take away and key encouragements. And that is to celebrate small victories. This is so important because it really keeps you going. Also, get your time management together. Do whatever you have to do to get a grip on that, and then stay mindful and on top of this. Also, don't neglect yourself or your health, or you'll hit your max and become too stressed to handle work. So you really want to tend to your health, sleep well, and eat right. Also, be more organized, because the more organized you are, the less stress you have, the less time you spend looking for things when you need them, which then leads me into gather everything that you need before you even start that project. This is so critical, I promise you. Next, build momentum. Momentum is when you work without stopping, letting each completed goal build on top of the other to make the next goal easier to complete. And then give yourself deadlines. Deadlines give you a clear guideline for how to structure your time and when to do what. But make sure you give yourself realistic deadlines. Don't promise the moon and then not be able to deliver. Set deadlines that give you plenty of room to complete things by and takes into account any potential setbacks. This is definitely something that I am going to focus on in 2024, especially as it relates to these videos. Lastly, identify what those potential setbacks and those obstacles are, because when unexpected obstacles arise, your enthusiasm runs out and inertia sets in. And inertia is antithetical to momentum. So you want to avoid that by being prepared and having contingency plans in place. Okay, beautiful? Okay. Now I know that was long. If you made it to the end, thank you so much. I know that you are definitely going to accomplish your goals this year. If you still feel like you need a little bit more help, I would encourage you to check this book out, Finish What You Start, because I'm telling you, it's really good. It's straightforward, it's non-fluff, and he just tells you what to do, and all you have to do is do it. So until next time, Lisa May here saying peace, love, and blessings. And remember, this year, finish what you start.